Welcome back. CPR has saved many lives and will no doubt save many more in the future. Marty Limpert, Public Information Officer for the St. Charles County Ambulance District, has some important information.
It's vitally important that everybody has an understanding and learns CPR and basic first aid. And to give you an example is that if somebody witnesses an arrest, if somebody doesn't intervene during the time period before first responders, whether that's police, fire, EMS respond, anywhere from 3 to 6 minutes could go by before any type of CPR is being done. The brain begins to die after 5 minutes without oxygen. So it's important that somebody initiates CPR. It's also important that we get early defibrillation. And many places now have AEDs, automatic external defibrillators, at supermarkets, they're at golf courses, they're at churches, they're at many places where a lot of people frequent. And the importance of early defibrillation is that the heart may only be in a rhythm for a short while where it's kind of quivering, where it's able to be shocked. These AEDs only shock one rhythm, ventricular fibrillation. And if they're able to shock that person early enough, they may be able to shock them back. We've had successes where early intervention has resulted in somebody talking before paramedics get there. On the other side of that, if they were to shock this patient and they went in, as we got there, into asystole, into flatline, they really haven't done that person a disservice. What they've done, the big word for it, is they've decreased the intrathoracic resistance of the heart to the next shock. And what that means is that when we get there with our more advanced equipment and start giving atropine and epinephrine and different cardiac drugs, the heart will accept our next shock much easier. So they've laid the groundwork for us. So it's important to intervene. There have been some changes in CPR. They've really made it a lot more user-friendly. Right now, it's 30 compressions to 2 ventilations. In the past, if anybody took a CPR class, there were quite a bit of 5 to 1 or 15 to 2. There were quite different variables for CPR. So now it's pretty simple. So if somebody witnesses an arrest, they would shake and shout to see if that person woke up, make sure it wasn't a seizure or something, or make sure somebody just hadn't tripped. They would ask somebody to call 911. They'd check the airway, open the airway to see if the person was breathing. They'd look for the rise and fall of the chest. If they weren't breathing, they would then give 2 rescue breaths, and they begin with circulation by giving 30 compressions. And they can continue that process of 2 breaths, 30 compressions for 5 cycles. After 5 cycles, they would reassess that patient to see if they had a pulse or any purposeful movement. And if not, then they would just continue until first responders arrived, or until that patient either regained consciousness, maybe had some movement, and they would just continue that until we got there, and we'd take over either the paramedics, police departments, or the fire department. One of the nice things is that all the fire departments now, I believe, out here, as well as many of the police departments, carry AEDs with them. So once they get there, they'll have that AED if there wasn't one available. For anybody wishing to learn CPR, we offer CPR classes throughout the year for groups or for individuals. If it's for a group, we just have the group call. They set up a date, whether they come to their facility or they can come here to our training center, and we'll perform the CPR course for them. If it's just one person who's not with a group and they want to sign up, they would call in, we get their name, we put a group together, because we try to get a group of 6 to 12 anytime we put one of these classes on. But they're offered usually on a Tuesday or Thursday throughout the month, but we will accommodate people's schedules as best we can. Many people in this day and age, we live in a litigious society, are worried about if they did intervene, could they be sued? And fortunately, Missouri does have a Good Samaritan law. And that Good Samaritan law not only covers professionals, doctors, nurses, paramedics, firefighters, police, when they're off duty, if they're not compensated when they intervene, but it also protects the lay public. And the big key to that is to make sure that you perform in the way that you were trained. And the only time there is any liability for that is if there was gross negligence. And an example of that might be is that, as you've witnessed, CPR can be pretty tiring. And as you're going through, as you begin pretty fatigued, and you decide that, well, you don't want to push anymore, and you decide, well, I'll use my foot for a while to do that. If you were to do that, nobody had trained you that way. That would probably constitute gross negligence. So as long as you're doing what you normally do, or that you were trained, you would be fine and covered under the Good Samaritan law. When we do CPR, we break ribs all the time. And the older the person is, the more likely that their ribs aren't as flexible, their cartilage, and we're going to break them. So if we break a rib while we're doing CPR, that's a normal expectation of what happens during CPR. So just because that happened, you'd still be covered under the Good Samaritan law. If anybody's interested in taking a CPR class or a basic first aid class, they can contact the St. Charles County Ambulance District at 441-1354, extension 1702, and that's the training center. Or they can go to our website at www.dscd.org www.sccad.com.
Thanks, Marty. Is there a safe way to tan? Pieter Sheehan has some answers.
The St. Charles County Health Department does many type of inspections, and one of our newer inspections, type facilities that we inspect, are tanning salons. When we're inside a tanning salon, we look for a few things. The main thing is that the beds are being properly sanitized and washed after each use, and that the overall facility is being kept clean so that the sanitation is at a standard adequate for people to use the facility. As a member of the community that wants to come in and use one of the tanning facilities, remember there's things that you can do to ensure safety and sanitation. One of the most important things is ask the tanning supervisor about the type of beds they have and how they relate to your skin tone and skin type. This is important to keep your skin from burning and having excessive exposure. Another important aspect is when you come into a tanning salon, if you do have issues with your skin rashes, skin problems, to remember that most of your body does touch the bed. And although the facilities do wash and wipe down the beds after each use, it's important to remember that you need to also look at your skin and make sure you don't infect other people who may be using the bed. So make sure you look at yourself and make sure you have no rashes or skin outbreaks that could be infectious. Eyewear is one of the most important things that you need to keep in front of your mind when you use a tanning booth. Depending on the tanning facility, some will supply you with eyewear and some will make you bring your own. The health department, although it's not part of the code, recommends that all individuals who use tanning beds buy their own eyewear and wash and sanitize it at home before you come back out and using the bed. This will ensure that the safety of your eyes and getting infections such as pink eye will not occur. So why do we wear eyewear? The eyewear protects you from the UV lights and the light bulbs that are in the tanning bed that can damage your eye, your retina, and the back of your eye. So the sun blocked or the light block eyewear is used for that reason, to protect you from the light hitting your eye.
Thanks, Peter. When we come back, we will be talking about internet safety and security.